practicing medicine without a license.
It has to be done through the auspices.
Medicine had to involve a fee.
You have to be done through the auspices of a doctor, Bob, and it has to be done if he wants to be accepted what is known by an AB blind test.
But you don't have to have a test to do it. You can say, hey, would you like to get in front of this machine just to experience it, not to cure your cancer, just to experience it. If your cancer were cured,
the data that would come out of something like that
you don't need the data.
Well, you do need the data if you're going to get it out and into the mainstream. And the idea is to get it into the mainstream and to get it into it.
Because those kind of people who were experiencing these things and also in the experience obtaining a cure.
In the long run, Bob, you're correct in one way. The bottom line is that it works, no matter what the doctors may say, if that's the case.
Well, without belaboring the point, I'd like to just say there's also an immediate inference that if it can cure cancer, it can cure AIDS.
That probably is true. There's no reason to believe that it's not.
And that's my contribution to your wonderful show.
Well,
thank you.
It's a
Have
good
a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Bob. And Margaret, you're on.
Hi, Bill.
You don't have too much time, so make it fast.
I was wondering, now that you have the documentation and all of the evidence that you need to present this publicly, if you are interested in getting on nationwide television. And if so, have you tried to contact any of the major networks to do this?
I had to twist their arm to get them on this little local show.
Okay, well, would they be willing? Because the thought occurred to me that right now the biggest thing that you require is communication.
That's true.
And if every one of the listeners sent a letter or telegram to the major networks and just besieged them with letters, quite possibly you could get on one of the shows.
I think they're a good candidate for Oprah.
Oprah would be wonderful.
And the new ABC show in the morning.
Absolutely.
Good idea, Margaret. Thank you. We'll maybe build a fire under them here and get them going, okay?
Okay.
And we're going to take a break for news. We'll be back with Steve and Laverne. 50 years ago, all he did was a simple little thing. He built the most powerful microscope that had ever been built. He looked in there and he saw viruses that were devastating mankind. And with Dr. Lee DeForest, he developed a way to kill all those viruses that cause cancer and leukemia and tuberculosis and a whole list. And it never came to pass. Sad, isn't it? What politics and money and greed will do. Well, our guests tonight are Steve and Laverne Ross of the World Research Foundation, and fortunately so much of the work of Dr. Rife's and indeed his microscope, one of the 5, is in their keeping. What all goes on at the World Research Foundation?
The World Research Foundation is a nonprofit foundation, Bill. We collect information from worldwide sources on all aspects of health and healing. We have an on-site library that has books going back to the 1600s in a wide variety of specialties. We also are connected to over 350 computer databases around the world where we're able to scan, as an example, in the Medline databases, 5,000 medical journals in 7 seconds on any subject. Our foundation doesn't take any particular position. We're unbiased. We're neutral. We're open to the public. And basically our main purpose is to collect as much information as possible on every health technique, diseases and illnesses, so we can give an edge to somebody who's in need.
And this is open to the public and to healthcare professionals or researchers who need additional information.
And where are you located?
We're located at 15300 Ventura Boulevard, Suite 405, Sherman Oaks, California.
Being an old Valleyite, that's at the corner of Sepulveda and Ventura.
Ventura, right.
Right there on the southwest corner.
Southwest corner.
That used to be the American Bank building. They moved across the street to the big building.
They did that right after we put in our literature. We were in the American Savings building, and then they moved the whole bank across the street. But we're very proud of what we're able to do. We have a network of advisors around the world in many different countries who send information to our foundation many times before it even appears in medical journals. And once again, this is in all the various specialties, but we are not just into alternative or holistic medicine because we are tapped into every medical database of standard medicine.
So for the researcher, it is a haven.
We like to think so. We're trying to do that.
It is a fascinating place. I've had the pleasure of being up there myself. So one of the reasons I wanted you to explain that is because you are the World Research Foundation, and there would be some question. I thought, why aren't you researching the Rife microscope and doing all of these things that you want to do? It's not that you don't want to. It's not what you do. This has to be put in the hands of skilled doctors.
The professionals.
The professionals who know what they're doing, who can deal with this kind of technology, who may have to open their mind and change their mind about the way the human body functions and the way this disease is to be removed from the human body. But there certainly are those doctors. There certainly are those laboratories. They're somewhere.
See, I think an important element is we, in our foundation, acquire data. We look at that data, we analyze that data, we try to extract the valuable aspects, but we don't place a value judgment. The Rife microscope is one particular element that we're discussing this evening, but I think based on a lot of the questions of even of your callers, there is factual data that exists. We have scourges upon mankind that have not been cured. You have a medical establishment that is currently saying in regards to cancer that the answer is just around the corner. And Laverne and I have some old journals, the Science newsletter from the 30s, that said the answer is right around the corner. They're just going to have a breakthrough. So the question really is, in relation to your last caller before the break, yes, there should be exposure. Yes, there should be a lot more pushing, because these should be tested out. We're all agreed that something is happening here, that there may be something important, and shouldn't we be trying every single element and aspect as to its validity and effectiveness? People are dying by the millions of diseases and illnesses that it does not appear the current modalities are effective. And I don't think this is any secret. It's even appearing in the medical journals. Ted Koppel on Nightline ran in a show where he talked about the cancer war. What is happening with this war on cancer? The Rife microscope worked on a multitude of diseases which showed that the basic principle is very sound. That is what we would like pushed, and if people really want to get involved, they should start pushing some of the established funding agencies. They should start pushing some of these research areas, and I would make this challenge to your listeners. Write to the charities that you currently give money to who are doing research in the areas of cancer and ask them for their specific researches that they're doing.
Or write to the City of Hope, which is one of the great researchers here in the Southern California area. And, well, we have so many. There are a lot of people who could take this information and run. The data is extensive. A lot of the work has already been done by some of the most credentialed doctors in the world. They were saying 100% cure rate of catastrophic diseases. Let's check that out. You know, these were not a bunch of mystics. These were some of the finest professionals we had in the business 50 years ago.
I'd like to throw in a particular article here, which I think you'll find interesting, from the San Diego Sun, January 7th, 1932. The article was Dr. Lowell Barker of Johns Hopkins University. Now, we haven't mentioned him. The article states, Dr. Barker had just come from a visit with Dr. Raymond Royal Rife, inventor of the new microscope, which recently created a stir in scientific circles, where it demonstrated a magnification of 10 times more powerful than anything in use today. He said scientists were claiming the microscope was violating all the laws of optics. So Lowell Barker said, I told Rife we would just have to let them get some new laws. Well, what I've always loved about this particular individual was people established barriers in their mind. We had the individual who earlier mentioned that he didn't see how a virus could have different stages. Well, they don't have anything that can see to that particular depth. We put ourselves in little boxes, and this becomes our world. And really, what we're trying to do at the Foundation, what you are doing with your show, is merely creating dialogue and interest to a degree that people start branching out from their preconceived notions.
We call it a reality box here.
Reality box.
And the reality box is really not much of a box. It's usually just a little one. The